Let me ask you something real. Why does it always feel like Evanston has to choose between staying affordable and staying afloat? That's exactly the false choice Sarah Flax, your housing director, put on the table at the last finance and budget meeting. She said it's either affordable housing or tax revenue. Either. Or. But Councilmember Clare Kelly pushed back. And she was right, we can have both. So why is this false choice even being presented? Who benefits from that narrative? Are city staff like Sarah Flax pushing policies for the people, or are they quietly following Mayor Daniel Biss' agenda to bring in more revenue, even if that means pushing you out? Watch this clip. Listen closely. Think for yourself. Stay locked in. The next finance and budget meeting is June 10th.
To generate that same level of affordable housing. Now, it's always a question, what's more important? Affordable housing or a higher tax base? Who doesn't try to get their assessment lowered? Anybody? Hey, I mean, nobody wants to pay taxes, but it's generally not the people who need affordable housing who are getting out of paying taxes.
Yeah. All right. So, right now, what we have in the pipeline, 605 Davis, do we have other projects that have submitted?
Well, they're working on that. The Clark Street, Clark and Maple, that tower. The developers are very interested in this. I mean, the first development that took advantage of this was a related Midwest one in Fulton Market. But one of the things to remember is no matter what we do, we're also not going to be, at least that I could think of, that would be even remotely something that we could recommend, is ever going to get units in our downtown. And now the 30-unit building is actually doing more larger units, which is another thing we wanted. And part of that may be because of the tax break as well, because they can then afford to do 2 and 3 bedroom units, whereas most of the buildings that are in these areas are generally efficiencies, 1 bedroom and a handful of 2 bedrooms. So it is absolutely a balance. What's the goal and which are the priorities of the council ultimately?
Right. And I guess this is a question for you, Councilmember Kelly. This is your item. So we'll discuss it, but what is your proposed next thing that happens?
My proposed next thing would be to put a pause right now on approval of any buildings that are in any proposed developments for the moment, and to look at revising our inclusionary housing ordinance. To answer your question, yes, we could have a 10% inclusionary housing ordinance, and we could say that those are the developments that we're accepting, that we're not accepting the 2080. Again, this was not intended for towns our size, and we're going to take a really hard hit for this if we go forward. We can have both. We can have inclusionary, we can have affordable housing, and we can get tax revenue, Sarah. So it's not true, it's not one or the other. So let's be really clear on this. And we can help offset costs for our struggling residents. The difference in the money, people are going to build. Evanston's coveted territory. Let's not fool ourselves. We're not out in some blighted land. People are going to build here. And I'm going to ask Chris maybe to speak a little bit to his thoughts in terms of, are we going to get developers if we reduce it to 10%? I think, he's in the profession, so he can respond to that. People will build, and we will get tax dollars, and we can have affordable housing. And with the difference in revenue, we can invest in land trusts that create affordable housing in perpetuity. So that because these, just so you know, the affordable units in these buildings do sunset, and Evanston will continue to slowly, glide into a very rarefied, wealthy city. But we could instead take a portion of that 40 million, we could invest in mixed income housing, land trusts, social housing that maintains affordable units in perpetuity. We could invest in property tax circuit breakers to help our residents who are living here now. I know 3 who were just forced out of their homes because of high costs. That's what we could do instead. And so that's what I would propose. I would propose a committee to look at revamping our inclusionary housing ordinance and to make a decision. Maybe it's a case-by-case decision, but we should not just, again, this is very new. They aren't even clear as to the impacts on this. I'm just going to tell you there are very few. I know that Midwest Related is one of the, the firms that was involved in crafting this, and they just, I think, did one big, large multi-unit. There are very few that's happened so far. We did approve one on Maple, and even that was a concern to me, but that's what I would propose, that we form maybe a subcommittee.